What's going on YouTube? This is Mario with another video. So this video I was inspired by a video from Track Stars. Check them out. They did a topic on the gay wedding cake. And for those who don't know what happened on that about that situation, it was a situation where a gay couple want to get their cake, made, but the guy who was making the cake was a Christian. He was like, I can't make a cake that represents something I don't believe in. And the gay couple got mad and they tweeted about it, and it ended up going to the Supreme Court. And the guy who was making the cake won the case, and then they was talking about, well, that's great, for him, but that's not, but they was kind of worried that it's going to like turn into a hate war, like, oh, God hates gay people, type of thing. And then he was talking about, how God's calling you to do something, when you're in a situation, when you're in a kind of like in a compromised position, like, how God's telling you to collaborate with secular artists. How do you know that God told you to perform at this, at a gay club, stuff that we want, how God really wants you to be in a position where, where you're a Christian, but like the rest of people aren't Christians. That was what they mainly talked about in that video. and and that's kind of, and then they're saying like, if God tells you to do something, it should be something that you don't want to do initially. And I agree with that to an agree. And I agree with that to an agree. Like when God tells you to do something, it's gonna be something that's gonna be like, I don't want to do it. This is, this is too hard. It's gonna be that type of, pushback. Because your flesh, your flesh wants comfort, and God's telling you to do something, God's telling you to do something like heroic and something, crazy, and your flesh is wanting something like do something comfortable. And like, a lot of times, a lot of young people struggle with hearing the voice of God because we feel like it's an emotional thing. We feel like it's emotion, and that's something that always, not always like, that's something that I always struggle with because, again, I grew up in, I always thought, hearing from God was based on emotions. I thought hearing from God, was based on, emotions, it was a voice, like an audible voice, like what they were saying in the video. And that's something, I had to learn the voice of God just by, praying about it, studying his word, and just, doing things that doesn't make me comfortable, doing things that I would normally do. Like right now, I'm starting to get more into audio books. Something that I was never doing. Just a year ago, I wasn't even into audiobooks, but now I'm like super into them because it helps me, gain knowledge, gain skills that I wouldn't have learned, or helps you pick up things faster than just reading a regular book or even watching a YouTube video would do. And like for me, like I've been a Christian for 7 years. So I had many experiences where I felt like God called me to do something, but it ended up not being God. One big example was me moving to New York, my first year of college. I moved back to New York in 2014. I felt like, New York was gonna be the place. It's gonna be it for me. Like, I had family up there. My church, the church I want to go to was up there, my godmother's church. I've been going there every summer when I was living here in high school. Um, my cousin's college was up there. Like I had so many good reasons to move out to New York because, I was very familiar with the city. My family lives there, and I already know how to operate the city pretty well. So when I moved back up there, it ended up not being what I wanted. I explained, what happened in my first year of college video. But for those who haven't seen that video, basically what happens was that, my cousin, my sister was up there. They was always arguing, and and I had to, and I basically had to, they always had to watch over me because my mom didn't want me being by myself. My mom still had her old apartment up there in Queens, and I was doing what they want me to do instead of doing what I want to do. And then, they was telling me, give them monies for the Metro card. I need you to pay for gas, or I need you to do this, do that. I just felt like, I didn't felt free. I just felt like, I was living with my mom again, but except that I was with my other family, and but I was doing what they wanted me to do. I couldn't do what I want to do because my mom was scared for me doing it on myself, and my cousin wanted to do what she wanted to do. She wanted to be with, her friends. My sister wanted to be with her people, and I just couldn't really do anything I wanted to do. So, it was just stressful. Um, I ended up paying student loans, and it was just so much like turmoil I had to deal with. And then my sister and my cousin was getting along, and I just one minute my mom wanted my sister, next minute she went with my cousin, and like it was just a rough period for me. And then so I ended up moving back here, which I didn't want to do. I ended up moving back here, and small town North Carolina. I went to RCC, Richmond Community College, and at first I was like, no, that was like the last place I wanted to be at. But I ended up going here, and in 2015, and I just graduated from there last spring, and it ended up working out for me, because I made some friends. I got a chance to do spoken word. I got a chance to do stuff that I want. But I still, but it was still felt lonely because again, it wasn't something I wanted to do. It was the reason why I wanted to move back on to New York because I felt like I wasn't prospering up down here, and then there was times where I felt stagnated, and other times I felt hurt. But like I trusted in the process, and I was able to, have an amazing time while I was down here. So I say that to say is that, hearing the voice of God, a lot of times when you think it's God, it's not God. And a lot of times when you don't think it's God, it is God. You know, um, God wants you to do things that's uncomfortable. And like an example of that is, Moses. When Moses told him to like, free the children of Israel, and he would, he got a speech impediment, and but he was obedient, and he ended up freeing children from slavery. Another example is Jonah. Jonah, he wanted Jonah to go to Nineveh, but Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh. Jonah wanted to go to Tarshish because Tarshish was peaceful. He's Nineveh, it wasn't as much. Nineveh had a lot of heathens in that country, in that city, and but he disobeyed God, and he ended up getting eaten by a whale. And so, God, basically what I'm trying to say is like God's gonna wants you to do things that makes you uncomfortable. He wants you to do things that nobody that doesn't make sense initially. But as you trust in the process, you'll start to see that, oh, okay, this is not okay. Now I see what God's trying to do. Now I see what God's trying to pull off from this, scenario. So that's that's my whole take on this. And like so, and the reason why I want to do this video is because like this is something that I struggle with a lot, in my walk with God. Like there's some people I say, man, I feel like God wants me to hang with this person, because it's X, Y, and Z, that. But it ended up not being the case, like last year when when I mentioned my friend who I was, the kid I was friends with, I mean, he was a really good kid. I really enjoyed him. I mean, he was just like awesome, and I really liked it. I really just admired him. He was so much like I was when I was 14, and it ended up not being, and we was close for like 2 months. 2 months I felt like he was like my best friend, and then next thing you know, he was saying we can't talk to each other no more, and that like just really just hurt me. So that's just an example of going by your emotions versus going by that God want. Is this God ordained? Because I mean, so make sure if God if you want to do something for God, that's great. If you something you want to do, because God will give you the desires of your heart. I do believe that 100% God will reward you if you're obedient to Him, if you obey Him. I do believe that, but at the same time, you don't want to just live your life. But you just want to live your life going by your what you feel like doing. If that was the case, we would just we would just live any kind of way. We would just be like the world, basically. So don't go by what you feel, and go by what God tells you to go by. And so So if God tells you to do something, it's gonna be, unconventional. It's gonna be, inconvenient. It's gonna sound crazy. It's gonna be something that you're not gonna want to do, or something that you're scared of doing. Like for me, spoken word is something that I knew God's called me to do from a young age, but because I had so many obstacles going against me, like I lived in a small town, I don't have a driver's license. I don't have a car. Like I had so much to come. I had so many obstacles against me, and I felt like, man, God, did you really call me to do this? Like, should it be this hard? Like, if it should be this hard to do something that I really am passionate about, and I really feel like I could, lead a lot of people to Christ with, you know. And then I realized that, if when God calls you to do something, it's gonna come tests, come trials, come hoops, though, come hurdles, because the enemy wants you to discourage you from doing what God calls you to do. He wants to discourage you. He wants you to make you feel bad about yourself. He wants you to feel like you're crazy. You lose your mind. All that type of stuff. So make sure whenever you do something that's big and that's major, make sure you're led by God. Make sure that you are led by God. Like, definitely make sure you're led by God, because if you just go by your emotions, you'll end up lost, and you end up trapped, and you end up doing something you regret doing. And I don't want you to guys make the same mistake I made, because I was young. Again, I was following Jesus when I was a teenager, and I don't really have nobody to really explain this stuff to me, really. So like I had to make so I made those mistakes, early on. But I'm glad that I'm older now and I'm wiser now, and I'm starting to understand God's voice better versus when I was, in high school. So yes, with that being said, this is Mario signing off.